The campfire crackled in the endless night. The old soldiers, the survivors, the wandering merchants who had narrowly escaped death huddled together in a tight circle. Their eyes darting around as if afraid someone might overhear. Their breaths came in short, ragged gasps, their voices hushed to mere whispers. No one dared to say their names aloud. The Comanche women, among the fiercest warriors of the plains. They were not quiet wives, nor were they fragile mothers. They were the keepers of the tribe's fire, the ones who decided the fate of prisoners brought back from battle. Life or death, to become a loyal servant of the Comanche, or to become a nameless drifter, forgotten by all. There were stories that turned men pale, of captives bound under the scorching sun until their skin cracked open, of those dragged behind galloping horses until they were nothing more than mangled flesh, of Comanche women standing silently, neither laughing nor weeping, only watching, as if weighing whether the soul before them was worthy of survival. Someone shivered. A cold wind swept through, making the fire flicker brightly before dying down. In the darkness, no one dared to speak another word. The story goes that in 1840, across the vast plains of the West American, there was a boy named Booker Webster. During a fierce raid by the legendary Comanche horsemen on a settlement, Booker was captured, taken as a prize by the fierce tribe that ruled the prairies. At first, he was just an outsider, a prisoner, nothing more. But as time passed and the seasons changed on the endless plains, Booker slowly became part of the tribe. He learned their language, listened to the mysterious stories told around the fire, and understood the harsh rules that only existed in this land. He witnessed the Comanche hunt, fight, and worship freedom as if it were the air they breathed. They didn't just live, they became one with the land, existing as an inseparable part of the vast prairie. Yet, amid all these new experiences, Booker carried a question deep inside. Did he still belong to the world he came from? Or had he become part of this wild land forever? Then came the night that changed everything. The campfire flickered, casting shadows of people quietly weeping in the stillness of the night. Before the coffins of Comanche leaders who had fallen during the bloody council house meeting with the Texans, Booker witnessed a funeral ritual, sacred and terrifying. It was in that moment that he realized how thin the line was between man and legend in this land. Under the pitch-black sky, only the flames danced on the dry earth. The scent of smoke and burning sap filled the air, heavy with sorrow and anger. Booker Webster clenched his trembling hands. His breath caught in his throat. "Do you hear that?" a shaky voice whispered beside him. The sound wasn't just crying. It was the screams of broken souls. The echo of pain and loss, the loss of leaders, fathers, and loved ones. In the flickering firelight, the silhouettes of Comanche women appeared. Their eyes reflected something beyond grief, a burning desire for revenge. As the sun sank below the horizon, the crying faded. In its place came low, rhythmic chants, each word sinking deep into the night. Booker held his breath. He had never seen a funeral ritual like this. The solemn atmosphere mixed with an eerie tone, making him feel like he was witnessing something sacred, or worse, a sacrifice. For the first time since coming to the tribe, Booker saw Comanche men cut off their long, sacred hair, a deep sign of mourning. But it was the women who sent chills down his spine. Without hesitation, they slashed deep cuts into their arms and legs. Blood dripped onto the dry earth, hot and dark, like an unspoken vow sent to the spirits of the fallen. Blades glinted coldly in the firelight, as sharp as the determination in the hands that held them. Booker wanted to close his eyes, but he couldn't. The power radiating from them was overwhelming. Their fury and resolve seemed enough to drown everything. At that moment, Booker realized he was one of the lucky few. A Comanche woman had adopted him, something most prisoners could only wish for. Stories had spread of the Comanche horsemen's cruelty on the battlefield, but few knew that when the blood of loved ones touched the earth, Comanche women could be just as ruthless, especially when driven by the pain of loss. Who were they? Comanche women, though not holding the same social status as men, played an irreplaceable role in the tribe. They were the heart of life on the plains. Everything outside the battlefield belonged to them. Building camps, caring for families, gathering food, preparing for long journeys, and raising future warriors. But when tragedy struck, They were no longer just mothers or wives. They became the embodiment of fury. Booker remembered stories he had heard of Comanche women torturing prisoners without hesitation, as if each wound they inflicted eased their own grief. For them, revenge wasn't just a duty. It was a sacred right. The only way their loved ones' spirits could rest. They would wash away humiliation with the blood of their enemies. A cold wind blew, making the flames dance wildly. Booker tightened his grip, feeling his heartbeat race. He wondered, where would the rage he saw tonight lead this tribe? He couldn't stop thinking about the woman who had adopted him, the one who saved him from the terrible fate many other prisoners faced. Without her, would he still be here, witnessing this moment, or would he have become one of those lost souls crying in the night? He felt the fragile line between two worlds more clearly than ever, the world he once called home and the wild land that had shaped him into who he was now. The night on the plains continued, silent yet suffocating, and Booker knew, when dawn broke, nothing would ever be the same again. Comanche women weren't just tent builders, leather workers, or traders with other tribes. They were symbols of strength and resilience on the Great Plains, with horseback riding skills that rivaled men and deadly accurate archery abilities. They were the soul of nomadic life, living on horseback and constantly moving. Comanche women could set up a teepee in just 15 minutes and take it down in only 5. When the men returned from hunts, they took charge of skinning animals, drying meat, and processing hides. The work became even heavier in the 1800s when buffalo hides became highly valuable, bringing wealth to the tribe. This led to the rise of polygamy. Skilled women were highly prized. Unlike men, who saw long hair as a symbol of power, Comanche women kept their hair short to avoid lice and ticks. Before going to war, men would paint their faces black, symbolizing death. Women, on the other hand, chose bright colors like red and yellow. This wasn't just a difference in appearance, it reflected the fierce fighting spirit flowing through their veins. Though small in stature, rarely reaching 5 feet tall, Comanche women were known for their iron will. They weren't born warriors but were exceptional riders and archers. In a culture constantly facing danger, they were ready to fight for their families. When the camp was attacked, they fought as fiercely as the men, even to their last breath. For them, surrender was never an option. Their power extended beyond the battlefield. They played crucial roles in deciding the fate of prisoners. Some prisoners, like Booker, were adopted and became part of the tribe. But not everyone was so lucky. White prisoners, seen as enemies, often faced brutal punishments, especially at the hands of Comanche women. The stories of Rachel Plummer and Matilda Lockhart prove this. Rachel Plummer, a young woman from the famous Parker family on the frontier, never imagined the cruel fate awaiting her. In 1836, while pregnant, she was captured during a bloody attack at Fort Parker. Separated from her family, exhausted and alone, Rachel was dragged into the harsh, unforgiving world of the Comanche. On the harsh Great Plains, Rachel gave birth in unbearable pain. But the tragedy didn't stop there. Right after giving birth, she was forced to watch her newborn be brutally killed, a cruel act severing her last link to the past. Yet, in the depths of despair, a flame of resilience ignited. She forced herself to survive. She learned the tribe's language, understood their customs and rituals. Day by day, Rachel endured hostile stares from Comanche women, who saw her as a symbol of the enemy. Mental and physical torment loomed constantly, and in the eyes of Comanche men, she was nothing more than part of their spoils of war. But Rachel didn't break. Every day was a battle for survival. She clung to every memory, every shred of hope. After nearly 2 years in that living nightmare, Rachel was finally released and returned home. Her incredible survival story wasn't just a testimony of horror, it was a key that unlocked the harsh and mysterious world of the Comanche, where life and death balanced on a knife's edge. Next comes the story of Matilda Lockhart, a young girl kidnapped at just 13 years old during a Comanche raid in 1838. Matilda endured 18 months of painful captivity, suffering brutal torture, mostly at the hands of Comanche women. For them, torture wasn't just punishment, it was a way to show power and establish dominance. Matilda's nose was burned, her face and body scarred with burns and wounds, permanent reminders of the cruelty she had endured. When Matilda returned, Broken and scarred, the Texan community was outraged. Her condition sparked a wave of anger, becoming the direct cause of the bloody council house fight in 1840. The Texans arranged a fake peace meeting, intending to ambush and kill the Comanche leaders in revenge for Matilda and to ignite a series of violent conflicts with the Comanche that followed. Under the scorching sun of San Antonio, the atmosphere at the council house meeting was tense. The Texans claimed they wanted peace talks to exchange prisoners, but hidden beneath that invitation was a cold plan for revenge. When the Comanche delegation, including powerful chiefs and women, arrived, they brought only Matilda Lockhart in her wounded state. The Texans accused the Comanche of deception for not bringing all the prisoners as promised. The argument grew heated. When the tension reached its peak, Texan soldiers suddenly drew their weapons and attacked. Blood spilled on the floors of the building once considered a symbol of peace. 35 Comanche, men, women, and children, were killed. The survivors were taken captive. The screams echoing through the council house weren't just sounds of death, they were vows of revenge. To the Comanche, this was more than betrayal, it was an unforgivable humiliation. Among the Comanche women who witnessed the tragedy were eyes burning with determination. They knew Texan blood would spill to wash away this shame. The council house fight wasn't just a bloody event, it marked the beginning of a long conflict between the Texans and the Comanche. At the heart of these tragedies, the figure of the Comanche woman stood tall, strong, fierce, and relentless. Not only did they fight on the battlefield, but they also became the soul of revenge, determined to protect the honor and survival of their people.